All right, we're here today. My name is Steve Moreland. I'm with Success Publishing, and we're actually doing an interview with Dr. Strugar, or as I like to refer to her as a good friend of mine, Arlene. And welcome to the interview today.
Hey Steve, it's nice to talk to you all the time.
All right.
I'm excited for for us to chat again.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a lot to cover today, and I know you're busy, and I know I don't know how many times we've attempted to try to put this phone call together because our schedules are so crazy, but thank you for giving your time. So what I wanted to do is kind of jump in and let you, as far as your background and your expertise, there's a lot of things that explain what you do and how your life of service of doing things from both a scientist perspective and as I want to talk about here, you've also been certified now to work with professional athletes, and I'll let you go into that here in detail. So kind of give me a little bit of background. Where are you at right now? And tell me a little bit about you and what you do and what you love.
Awesome. Well, great. I have a PhD or a PsyD, doctoral in clinical and industrial psychology. I've got that education a long time ago,
Mhm.
and then from there, fast forward, I have gotten into high tech industry.
Mhm.
And then transitioned into being a research scientist, where we are able to work with very talented engineers,
Mhm.
and social scientists is someone who represents the end users, the humans, in terms of how are we going to be using the brilliant inventions and technology that our brilliant engineers will be inventing.
Right.
So,
Oh, awesome. Okay.
for the humans in the whole ecosystem of high tech, right?
So, so this is awesome. So you actually are able to take your education and your background and your experience in psychology and figure out when the technologists bring up something new. I'm just going to use like Google
Yeah.
Glass, and you're the first person that gets to touch the technology before the general public, even before a study group.
Yeah, and even before the technology is designed,
Wow.
so we're kind of like doing quite a bit of pathfinding, as we call it.
Hmm.
And then we kind of do the iterations of different forms of research,
Hmm.
with the end of mind of making sure that the technology will help solve a human pain point or human pain points and make it usable so we can
Awesome.
better the world in a way.
Okay, so it sounds like every day is, there's no such thing as not having an interesting day in your world. How about that?
Exactly. And so humans and the people like us, essentially contribute to the table of, innovation.
Right.
So that's pretty cool. And then on the side, I do have this passion of connecting to people, whether one on one or in groups, in the
Hmm.
form of health and wellness, and now into sports psychology. And that's what you were referencing on
Sure.
my recent certification as a mental coach.
Right, right. So if I can, I'm going to share my screen with for just a second and actually show, because you are now a newly published author, by the way. So I want to say congratulations on that.
Thank you, thank you. I do have the the
Right,
version.
yeah,
As
Success Unlimited. Right, exactly.
I always carry this with me. It's not
Yeah,
that I'm, I forgot what what we produced together, but I think it's always good because I told you before that whenever I travel, I have like 3 to 4 books in my bag, so I
right.
could, share that book to a stranger.
Well, I think you told me an interesting story. This is a while back, but I think I remember that you said, like everyone, your kids don't know what mom does. And they're like, okay, it's just mom. And then you were in an airport, and I think I remember you having a conversation with someone, and you ended up
Uh-huh.
giving your book to someone. What was the response? Not just from the person that you met and how you impacted their life, but what was the response from the little ones that was like, oh, she's just mom?
I think they were still in disbelief, and somehow, my son, they're into fencing. I think they were
Right.
traveling to Cleveland. at the time.
Right.
And when you're waiting, and I was practicing, as you have mentored me and coached me to kind of tell your story. And
Sure.
and I realized that when you tell your story, people open up to you and tell their story. And
Sure.
because I am a social scientist, I'm interested in those, and then find commonality, and then basically to kill time. So as we get more comfortable, and establish commonalities, I said, hey, by the way, I have a book. This is my book. I signed it, and and so in the beginning, my two kids thought that I was so full of me to actually require someone to receive my book.
Right.
Then at the same time, they were like, oh, so this book is something that you give away, or
Uh,
so I
sure.
think in essence, because we want to somehow, I remember Matt Morris said that he would like to be a superhero to his kids,
Right.
or his I don't know how many kids he have,
Yeah,
or a
three.
child,
Sure. Hmm.
three. And so I kind of, that resonated with me, because at
Sure.
the end of the day, you want a role model to your children. um you know um you know for me, a spirit of connecting to people. And
Sure.
now it's no longer abstract, because now I have a book to share
Right.
to those individuals. So it's pretty good for me to see the reaction. I don't know if that made a lasting impact on them, or if that changed their mind in terms of my credibility to them. But I think that was an awesome experience.
Sure. Well, I think the credibility that you have with others, not just in the high tech and sports psychology environment, but sometimes our toughest audiences are our kids. And
Exactly.
so, if you do well with them, you're going to do awesome with everybody else. How about that?
And now that like 2 weeks ago, you know what else I did? I
Tell
actually
me.
put copies of my book on our coffee table in the living room.
Right. So before long, they'll be sitting there reading your book as well. That's awesome.
Or at least priming them that is there for
Right.
them to read.
And I think that's one of the things too. When you mentioned Matt, his oldest daughter Zara, she's about 10, and one of the things I think was a great thing that had happened to him when he got his 10th book in, which was in the Success Unlimited environment, and his oldest daughter Zara came through, and he had just got a box in from Amazon with the new books, and she sees the stack, and she goes through. Obviously, his office is just like a library with floor to ceiling books, and she's always welcome to come in there, as all of them are, to read any book. And she grabbed one of his new books, sees Dad's name on it, walks out with it, and he follows her later after he got off the conference call and found her on the couch reading her dad's book. So, it's what we seed into the mind of the generations that are coming behind us, that they can do anything else as well.
Yeah, I think that curiosity of what your parents do
Sure.
is always what we want our kids to be curious about at an early age. I didn't see any one of my kids in that situation yet, but I will share that with you. You'll be
Right,
surprised.
right, right. Well, it's coming, because putting it on the coffee table, you're priming. I think that's the right word. So speaking of priming, help me understand, because you have become certified as a mental coach to work with professional athletes, and
Right.
so this has come about here more recently. So give me a little background on what this is. Now that you are an author, a doctor as far as technology, and you're a sports psychologist. How does this work?
Well, yeah, so one of this is something that I have been very interested in doing, right? Actually, in my doctoral program,
Hmm.
to be in the field of sports psychology. For whatever reason, I get kind of like geared in other ways. I'm already a certified fitness trainer, and
Hmm.
and have kind of a little bit of collegiate sports in experience.
Sure.
But then combining sports and psychology is something that I'm very passionate about. I'll tell you that what the book had done for me is somehow really kind of embrace my message and
Hmm.
my story, and it kind of opened up tons of opportunities for me, not just speaking, and also just really internally, I have become more self-reflective of what I want to do. It made me more confident about my pursuits
Sure.
in the next chapter. So this certification is something that I'm very, very excited about. I have been using this, to coach high level athletes, and they could be pursuing, competitive sports as well. The next thing here to do is get certified by the same organization
Hmm.
into more of really deeper sports psychology techniques and programs, because the combination in sports and psychology, because you are an athlete yourself and
Sure.
you're into fitness, you know that's a lot of mindset tweaking and adjustment
Absolutely.
that comes into performance, and not just really when you do high level sports, but also even in our day to day wanting to be well.
Sure.
We borrowed a lot of those from psychology and the field of sports psychology. There's tons
Absolutely.
of information here. I'm very excited about this new designation.
Absolutely, you're right. It all translates. And in fact, I was actually looking at this is actually a press release that we have that went out and went to some really major. I want to touch on that in just a second. But I loved your definition of success, that it is a synergistic result of our emotional, cognitive, spiritual, physical, and social states all combined that we experience in the here and now. And if we choose to have a positive state of mind every day, and we've achieved it, that is in itself success. That's a great definition. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, obviously, all of us have our own definition of success, but this is my definition. It
Sure.
comes from an accumulation of, childhood experiences, as I've written in the book,
Hmm.
as well as, professional interactions with people like yourself and others who have
Sure.
shared their stories with me. And then obviously read an evolution of the fact that success is something that we own. It's something that's in us, right?
Right.
And my definition should be personalized to my experiences and what my pursuits are. And there's always an option of, and I think it's not a static definition. It always changes.
Sure.
So for me, this is where I'm at. I
Hmm.
realize that it's always this holistic, mind, body, brain, and then the social interactions. If you feel like, success, and for me, there is always some sort of like an emotional attachment that goes with it. And I
Right.
think the missing piece here that I'm trying to kind of define for myself as well is where happiness comes into play, right?
Sure.
The idea of success and happiness, right? Because we're always, there's always that idea of us chasing success,
Hmm.
right? But we didn't realize that if we kind of like, there's a sense of happiness and gratitude that comes with the state of being successful. And
Absolutely.
I think everybody defines that according to their comfort and uh, the bar that they raise, or either they could raise the bar or lower the bar. But I think there's always that personalized definition of where you want. So for me, success, the feelings of gratitude and happiness comes into play. And
Sure.
I think that's the next level of definition that I'm trying to discover for myself.
Agreed. And I notice, you're using synergy. It's the combination of all of them together where, and all the different components, the mental, like you said, cognitive, emotional, spiritual. So you're adding that in there, and the physical aspects, and then the general aspects of our social environment, all of those coming together. And that actually creates the individual when they can experience that. And to experience it, you have to be here now, not thinking about the past or worried about the future. So you have, I love your definition, is what I'm saying. Really well
Yeah.
done.
Yeah, the here and now I think is a key there, right?
Hmm.
Because sometimes even athletes, when they make a mistake in their, what they're doing right now, they have some sort of fixation
Mm-hmm.
on that move that
Sure.
actually affects their next move. So in sports psychology, we teach them what we call which mistake amnesia,
Mm.
so that you actually, have developed the skill to let go of that mistake,
Right.
because those were in the past, so that it doesn't really affect your current state,
Right.
right? And that transition is very, very important.
Absolutely.
The timeline recognition is very, very important to happen, and be realized, so that you can actually move to the next here and now.
Mm-hmm.
There's a tendency to think a lot about the past, and there's a
Right.
tendency to think a lot about the future,
Mm-hmm.
right? So the here and now is actually what
Key.
we like to cultivate.
Absolutely. Well, and I noticed when I'm looking at your press release here, I'm noticing, the link that goes to your website that actually talks about not only your book, actually gives you your background, the fact that you have been cited on and seen on ABC, NBC, CBS, and Fox, as well as a number of other channels and news outlets. But I wanted to just touch on some really great, what I saw were actual testimonies by individuals that are peers inside of your industry, and they said some really fantastic things here. And Steve Agritelli, is that how I say his name?
Yes. Uh-huh.
I thought it was really important. He said she has a deep expertise in human behavior informed by clinical practice. So that's where a lot of people have experience. But then you've now had a decade or more in high tech as a social scientist. And now you've combined all that, where the synergy we're talking about, your definition, into your groundbreaking work of moving all that together in health and fitness wellness. You stay
Yes.
pretty busy, I guess.
I have a great husband, because that's
Right, right, right. Because you definitely,
yeah, you have. I'm blessed with my very supportive and loving husband, and
right.
my wonderful kids, and obviously my family as well.
Absolutely, and you take time to do all that, and not only becoming an author and publishing, because I know you've done a lot of professional papers, but actually creating the book. Obviously, it's published and available by Amazon. But I was going to show on press release that there was a number of major channels: ABC, there was Fox, NBC, CBS, actually. Have picked up on your story, and I'm going through here and looking about 300 other
Oh,
news, and this is
quite a bit.
newspapers.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, this is fantastic. And so I even noticed, a number of different, these are newspapers and even financial, wellness industry, all types. And the Boston Herald, that's actually New York Times owned. And so anyway, this has been fantastic that you have really not only, got out there with a book, but seem to put all this together. You're helping people. You're fantastic as far as wellness. You're incorporating everything that you know. So what is next? What's next for you now?
Well, the next is really somehow to get more connected with people. I think I have been more into the space of research,
Hmm.
and I'd like to get back to connecting one on one and in groups. And the book has given me that opportunity to have a reason of telling my story more and more,
Sure.
then transition into that connection. At the end of the day, I think that's where my heart is, that connection, one-on-one connection, listening to someone's story. Because I think, just like you and me, we've known each other for almost a year now, but
Sure.
that level of connection has fostered quite a bit of
Hmm.
mentorship, quite a bit of creative pursuits for me. So
Sure.
I'd like to surround myself with people like you, and great mentors that I have, great friends that I have, and then continue to tell the story, and obviously, in the process, inspire people, so they could actually, get that synergistic collective
Right.
thinking, not just, one on one. Because, this is a learning process. I still grow by, my interactions. And I think it's the number one reason why I love the interactions,
Yeah.
because I learn a lot from people. It may
Absolutely.
seem to
Right.
be like that, but that's really very, very true for me.
So, trying to say, and I'm just sitting here thinking because I know your time is about up here, and I appreciate you giving and explaining all of this and sharing your time with us. And I too, I want to say I'm honored to have known you as we've developed our relationship over the last year, and your insights are so exceptional. And I wanted to say I appreciate everything that you've taught me as well. And we continue, like you say, when you find great people, I think you attract the type of people if we're constantly contributing and creating that level of significance, not for ourselves, but significance by contributing to other people and helping them grow. That requires us to grow. And when we grow together, that synergy means that 1 and 1 now equal 3.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
You said it perfectly. That's exactly I would like to be, in that position, in the next that's the next phase.
Well, I'm looking forward to coming back and doing other, check-ins with you, because every time we do get to talk, our time runs out so quickly because we have so much to share.
So
And I wish I had time to go into the fact that you are fencing and all of this great stuff that
oh
you're doing.
yes.
But
Well, nothing compared to your high level energy.
oh, I put stuff on like I do on my social media too, just because it challenges people, and I love to do things a little crazy, and it makes people laugh, and of
I
course,
love it.
yeah,
I'm glad that I'm following you. Your energy and the mindset. It's so inspiring.
thank you, thank you,
So keep doing it. It's
absolutely.
very motivating.
And that's the cool thing is I get response every once in a while. I've got my son and daughter out there too, and they kind of sit in the weeds. They're seeing, okay, what is dad doing on social media? Maybe he shouldn't be here because he's not cool, because he's not a millennial, right? So I don't know all of the etiquette of what I do and don't. So I just get out there and have fun.
It's
And the thing is,
amazing.
that's it. You just do it and press record. And the cool thing about Instagram is it only lets you talk for 60 seconds and then it's over. So you can't really screw up that much in 60 seconds. So it's
So
just
we're
good.
learning from you. Keep doing it. It's an
Oh,
amazing, amazing role modeling that you're doing.
thank you very much. And I appreciate your time. I know you've got other things to do and new technology to touch. Just make sure that if you see anything named SkyTel coming out, that you make sure you stop it early, because we don't need Terminators walking around the world, right? Okay. Thanks for your time again. And
Thank you.
all the best luck to you.
Thank you.
All
Talk
right.
soon.
All right. Bye.